Alright everyone, today we have three rather important stories. The first is actually dated a couple days ago, but it's about the new California movement. I'm imagining fallout instantly. So naturally it's okay with me as long as it involves a nuclear winter. The new California movement's a group of people who basically they want to separate California into two states. I know the prior solution put forward, and of course never gained traction, was hey, we're going to have a 6-state solution within the state of California to, break it up. This one makes a little bit more sense because the only real reason people would want to break California up, to tell the truth, is because of demographics there and voting trends that mean that this relatively small coastal area that's highly urban and extremely left-leaning is basically making all of the decisions. And so several tens of millions of people in California who are actually fairly far to the right, they're on that part of California that's more like a rural mountainous area instead of this, coastal region, sort of the wine-growing territory, San Francisco and a few other places. Everyone else basically is just along for the ride. They've had this debate for years now in New York, actually. Most of New York, I don't know if people realize this, is actually red state territory. Most of the entire state of New York, geographically, and a significant minority of its population is rock-ribbed, post-New England-style Appalachian Republicans. Then again, you have New York City, and New York City, of course, alone has a significant proportion of New York's population, and it is overwhelmingly blue because it's a massive urban zone. Now, so New York City essentially can rob money from the rest of the state. New York City and Albany rob the rest of the state blind, the productive parts of the state. Tax them up the ass and basically just do the minimum needed so that those other regions can get by without getting ahead so that they can keep them sort of like feudal vassals. And so people in New York have often said, hey, let's get rid of New York City, turn that into a city-state basically, with a voting presence. I don't even want to know how many senators New York City alone would have. It'd be a considerable number. And then the rest of the state can go back to functioning as it should. It's a decent idea on paper. The problem is this. When you're talking about splitting a state up and creating a new one, creating a voting block, you need first the consent of the majority of the people in that state. Now, usually the reason why people would want to split anyway is because they are a significant minority of that state. Unless turnout was exceptionally high in any referendum, therefore, it wouldn't even pass that first hurdle. They would need absolute massive levels of organization, which means in order to get that, you have to have huge amounts of social stress. So far, the sizable minority, but, still a minority, albeit, in California, New York State, Texas, and even here in Vermont, has never been alienated enough to actually vote at significant enough levels to even go through with a referendum to start the process of even considering a secession movement or a state-splitting movement. And both of these things variously are talked about. In most states, it would be absolutely unconstitutional to secede. Vermont and Texas are the only notable exceptions. It's written in with their state constitutions because they were independent republics that chose to join. Their primordial joining allows for secession explicitly. It was signed off on. Yes, Texas is theoretically capable in a legal sense of seceding. However, it'll never happen because even though it would be legally recognized, the second they do secede and become a nation, you can just declare war and conquest them. So it wouldn't mean anything. For Vermont, they probably wouldn't bother. They'd say, oh, those rubes up there in the mountains, landlocked as they are, they can trade with Canada, and then we would quickly fall to third world status probably. So it wouldn't be very pretty, without ocean access. And I guess we'd have to sail things up through Canada and out into the Hudson in order to conduct sea trade. Now, how are we, all flights have to go to Montreal because the U.S. won't let us fly over their airspace anymore. They've locked us out. That'd be funny. Now, by the way, I would still probably stay in Vermont at that point. I would definitely fight for the U.S. in such a situation, but if Vermont, by some virtue of miracle won, I'd probably say, fuck it, I'm just going to stay here. Whatever. Or go to Texas. And then knowing my luck, they secede the next day. So, it's like, okay, we're drafting you into the Rough Riders. This is going to be a fun time. I'm just joking. But this isn't actually going to happen. This is a pipe dream. there's not enough social alienation. In order to pull this off, you need either a majority of the state or a huge amount of social alienation so that your votes, even coming from a minority, are still more numerous. That's the first hurdle. The second hurdle then is, hey, Congress has to assent. The rest of the country has to say, okay, this is all right. Do you not think that the Democrats in Congress would never allow such a thing? You would need a supermajority of Republicans in the House, the Senate, and controlling the states, I believe, in order to actually cause this to happen. If you had such a lopsided situation, though, where you had the assent, the thing is, with the football team dichotomy, think about it logically. Would that group of people be under enough stress to even vote that way if that party that they wanted to support by splitting, by partitioning a state, was in charge at such high levels? No, they wouldn't be under, there'd be like some conservative, some Republican. It's like, oh, we need our own Republican in California because these coastal people are running roughshod over us. But hey, the House, the Senate, and the presidency are all held by massive numbers of Republicans. Republicans hold everything else. Wouldn't it make more sense simply to move to a red state in that situation? Most people will take up that line of reasoning, which drains. As alienation increases, it inevitably will drain support away from such a movement. And so they'll simply move elsewhere, like a lot of Californians have been moving lately to Texas, because there are no jobs left in California. It's now, I believe, #1 in something. It's #1 in poverty. That's about all. Peace out.